Ladies, gentlemen, people who clicked on this video, I'm Units, and this is a theory for Dungeon Crawler Carl. Disclaimer, I don't have a Patreon and haven't read anything on Matt Dinneman's ninth two-part book. This is just a theory of my own that I've come to make up. I enjoy the series that much. It's a fun little theory that I have. Let's jump into it. Carl's father, we'll call him Patrick because Patrick Warburton plays him in the sixth book, is part of a resistance. And this resistance is to end the crawl or he's an early Earth human to monitor Earth before the crawl and shape part of Earth's culture. Chapter 27 of Dungeon Crawler Carl has Brandon mentioning to us via Mistress Tiatha saying, well, Mistress Tiatha being the equivalent of Mordecai, on Brandon's part, how some humans are these pre-humans sent to monitor and shape the culture of the planet that's going to be harvested in this collapse. Now, he could be monitoring or be sent there similar to Agatha. You know, if you don't know who Agatha is, or if you clicked on this video without knowing the series, by all means, go figure out who that is. Go listen to all the books. It's fun. Since he is sent there early, though, he can train up a soldier or train up somebody to withstand the crawl, to make it to the end if possible, to give somebody a fighting chance, will you? Patrick does this by molding Carl by brutally raising him. Immediately comes to mind when he smashes Carl's aquarium with the mollies with his biker helmet, and directly teaching Carl about abandonment, not abandonment, with pain. Abandonment teaches Carl to rely on himself because in the crawl, that's all you can really rely on. You know, you can rely on your partners and team that you team up with, but that ultimately comes down to you making your decision. And we find that that's what happened with Mordecai when he made the decision through Audette with Chaco to make it out of his season. Bullying, though, taught Carl early on to take on those that are stronger than him, that are above him, that should not be doing that, you know? Patrick, a part of the early team, though, knows details from previous crawls / maybe even this crawl. He then proceeds to get a bunch of tattoos. And you're thinking to yourself, why does tattoos matter? Well, Carl associates them with bullies and terrible people, we learn when he examines his first goblin tattoo that he receives in the dungeon of Dungeon Crawler Carl. These bullies in the dungeon, though, are the equivalent or would be the syndicate, the Kuatine, Born, whoever's running the crawl, essentially. And Patrick influences Carl to despise these people. As I mentioned earlier, though, pre-humans have common influence culture, but some of them, being those of the resistance and or pre-monitoring, came in and shaped culture through what appeared to be an innocuous video game in 1981. What video game am I talking about? Well, Donkey Kong? No. Defender? No. Galaga? No. No, it is the action video game developed by Konami, published by Sega, designed by Taka Hyde Harima. I think that's how you say his name. Frogger. Released August 1981. He owned this machine, Patrick, that is, as is stated, and in the chapter 6, that his father owned this machine, as it gave a skill to Carl to evade danger, make split decisions, and actually plan and reach his objectives. Because pre-humans get to shape the culture, and the best way to make sure a few survive the actual crawl is putting this skill quietly and secretively into society. We should assume Taka Hyde Harimo is part of, or canonically, a pre-human not of this planet. Why did Carl play Frogger, though? Well, he played it in the first place because Patrick made the scenario where he'd want to go and play it, and would have the opportunity to go play it because Patrick brought over his friend's Hera. That's why I'm naming Carl's mother for reasons of another theory I have going. But Hera didn't want Carl around Patrick's friends. So Hera had Carl go to the basement, and with nothing else to do but Frogger, he played Frogger and got better at it. Mordecai informs Carl, though, of the way abilities level up via trainer or using them. And he says using them is the better way to do it. But the trainer in the dungeon itself is the Frogger cabinet Carl has a car battery hooked up to via his level 6 skill in electrical, ultimately training up others such as Bomo and Sledgy. Bomo, at the start of the Butcher's Masquerade, when the Cretans are playing, when Carl was sleeping, upon reaching the 6th floor, they were playing the game, leveling up. We know that it takes 4.5 hours to reach a score of roughly where George Costanza was, which was 800,000, around there, 870,000 or something like that, 840,000. It takes approximately 4.5 hours. So, if Bomo is playing the whole 2 hours himself, he could be looking at a level 4 skill in Frogger. Because you take whatever your high score is and divide by 99,990, and that's your skill level in that skill. Bomo is then called upon to teleport them to Zakao, the encampment or the capital of the floor where all the hunters are in their encampment. Bomo during this time avoided danger, reached his objective, and by getting to the safe room. Sledgy,
surviving is winning, Louis,
we can assume is at a higher level because he tells Carl, no, let Bomo, this is going to be, taken from the audiobook, no, let Bomo beat high score.
No, let Bomo beat my Frogger score.
Due to playing longer and actually being better at it than Bomo is. So Sledgy at the end crashes the Twister into the Elf Tower on Imogen's castle at the end of the, Butcher's Masquerade in a split decision, avoiding danger, following this plan laid before him to reach his objective, casting Zezura to teleport the whole castle, all the changelings, various NPCs, and himself down to the 9th floor. So he reached his objective. Why is this important? Because the common objectives in the dungeon are to get to the next floor. And that's Carl's been doing successfully for 11 floors now. Carl has been passively leveling this, doing all those. Like his mind skill balance, or his mind balance skill that we find out about in this inevitable ruin, that is level 16, fighting off Free Maria. Now, we know from Mordecai saying that a level 15 fireball ruins a mob's day, but a level 20 fireball absolutely turns a mountain into an active volcano. So we can assume now anything past level 15 is going to give astronomical benefits. And Carl can do that once again because he's a primal. His primal ability allows him to level up to 20. So now not only are all of his plans and avoiding danger, split decisions, and reaching his objectives going to get stronger, they're going to become godlike. As he steps into the realm of the gods with those 11.813-inch feet, this is seen actually as Plan C in Parade of Horribles on the 11th floor is a psycho plan from what Ellie tells us. And Donut says it's called Plan Carl, which Ellie states Plan C should be the primary plan, telling us Frogger also makes you better at planning. Like I said. So, Carl, though, has been making these plans since the first book, such as Mic Drop, for example. That was one of his first big plans with Donut, to have a response to anything that should be happening to avoid even more danger. Well, why hasn't Carl stopped to think about it? It's full tilt boogie all the time out there, dude. They're trying to survive. And because Frogger is also inherently hidden by the system, appearing as an innocuous as the playing on the machine. It's not important. Why would it be hidden? Obviously, it's not important if it's hidden. So now that we know Carl has the ability to survive the warrior, this warrior now needs a weapon. Well, what weapon did he get in the Eye of the Bedlam Bride? This weapon's Chekhov's literal gun that he also found with a pack of Marlboro Reds, which Carl was smoking at the beginning of the series. Now think about that one for a little bit. But Chekhov's gun is a narrative principle emphasizing that every element in a story should be necessary, while irrelevant elements in a story should be removed. So, in this case, Carl gets a 9mm, and he gets it from Patrick's dresser. That Carl knows when to probably use on the, eulogist or the equivalent, right? It can be enhanced on the sapper table, as it's an explosive-like device, and he has a proficiency, as of now that we know of, level 3 for guns. Now, one more thing Carl did pick up, actually, from his father. Smoking. We know this because he immediately knew where to look in the dresser for his father's smokes. So he's been bumming smokes or taking smokes from his father as a kid. His smoking gave Carl early access. In my opinion, this is real. Oh, sorry. Now this is real tinfoil hat coming in. Forget the tinfoil hat. You're going to need a whole tinfoil suit for what's happening next. So, smoking not only gave Carl, something to, a bad habit, but it gave him early access to explosives through the lighter that he brought into the dungeon, because Mordecai tells us that it's shaped based off of what you're already doing, capable, and that the prizes are shaped off them. And because he was already able to light off, and he got dealt with an explosive immediately right off the rip against the mob, being the goblins with their murder dozer, he was started down his line of the compensated anarchist, giving him access to the escape plan skill, giving him even further access into the anarchist cookbook, giving Carl even more guidance. Smoking not only led to this compensated anarchist is to make sure that the window was open for Donut to be lured out by Gravy Boat / Ferdinand that night. While Patrick is a villain in Carl's book, he is the indirect hero to help tear down the Crawl, the invisible hand guiding our hero on his journey. I'm your Nits. Like, comment, subscribe, stay hydrated.